Kia ora and welcome back to B2B Inspired. I'm your host for today, Dale Kerner, and it's been a while since I've been in the saddle. Haven't done one of these for a little while, but one of the more recent conversations that I ran on B2B Inspired was with our guest today, Mike Stokes. Mike from Indicator, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dale. Pleasure to be here.
I'm going to hit you straight away with a little bit of a pat on the back, which is to say that your episode last year was our most listened to episode of the whole year.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you're famous.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Don't know what happened there, but we'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Keep that in the back pocket. So for the viewers at home who may not know, the listeners everywhere, Mike is from Indicator, and every year they run one of the most useful resources, I think, in New Zealand and Australian sort of sales and marketing forecasting, which is the Mood of the Sales Leader Report. And which year are you in now? You've been doing it a long while.
This is the 9th one for New Zealand, so we've just issued the 9th one for New Zealand and the 2nd one for Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
So double digits next year?
10 years next year, yeah. Who would have thought?
A big party, big event?
Well, who knows? Who knows? Nothing in the works yet, but why not?
Yeah, we'll hire out one of those boats down in the viaduct and have a big, one of those. So last year we went through some of the insights that came out of the report, and I think there's so much value in just getting straight into the weeds of this, because every year, I know for myself personally, there's always a nugget of information within the report that really sets the course for the year ahead. So there are some talking points that I'd like to go through and pick up on it. But why don't we just throw to you quickly just with a high-level overview of what is the structure of the report, how do you get information, and what does the outlook look like for 2026?
Yeah, so to give you an example, so we spoke about, obviously we've been doing this for 9 years. We survey sales leaders and salespeople, including in the leadership arm. We'd also include managing directors, general managers, commercial managers, anyone who's really driving revenue in a business. And this year we also include marketing managers as well.
Hooray,
so,
seat at the table.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So, and the reason why we started this piece of research was that for now close to 11 years we've been running a program called Sales Syndicate. And essentially what that is a peer-to-peer learning and development program for sales leaders. And every month we would see these sales leaders and we would ask them, how's their business going? How are they tracking? How's revenue? Are they employing people? Are they implementing new technology? And it was always a really fascinating barometer on what's happening out there. And we're still fortunate enough to have those sessions and to be able to hear from the marketplace about what's happening. And so then with that we decided, well, there's really some amazing insights here. We should share that in a more formal way. And so that's really why we started. And as we said, we've included Australia 2 years ago. And at the end of last year, end of 25, we surveyed 700 of individuals across Australia and New Zealand. Mm-hmm. And we found two very, very different markets, one in New Zealand and one in Australia. We'll put Australia to one side perhaps at the moment. We'll talk about them later. But in New Zealand, when we did this last year, Dale, I sat here and said last year that 2024 was the worst year that we've seen in the time that we've researched. And I'd love to sit here and say that 2025 was better, but in reality it didn't seem to be. And what we saw in 2024 was that we saw only 39% of companies grew. Yeah. But they grew on the back of a better year. Yeah. This year what we saw was that in 2025, 41% of companies grew. So you could say slightly more, but really it's growing on the back of a poor year already. So it was incredibly tough. So I think that's the first and foremost what we saw. And we had all these expectations and hopes that we would come out of a form of recession halfway through last year. It never eventuated. So that was tough, and a lot of companies saw that. We saw a number of redundancies, and I don't think we need to focus too much on that because it was kind of a reality. Some other interesting elements that we saw was that the economy was the number one issue, still the number one problem. We saw length of sales cycles extend even further than 2024.
And they were already long, right?
They were already long, yeah. And then competition crept into some of the biggest challenges that companies had from a revenue perspective. Yeah. So that was certainly hard, but we also saw some positivity. So we'll throw some positivity in early. Good. Canterbury was great. Canterbury was the number one performing region as per our survey. So, and I think if you've been there lately, and for those who've been there lately, you can see the positivity, you can see new things happening, obviously rebuilds, a new stadium and so forth. So that was the positive region of New Zealand.
Any particular pockets that drove that?
Well, agri was a really significant force last year, and has proven to be the same this year as well. So potentially maybe that supported the growth in Canterbury. Yeah. We also saw a positive aspect of last year was exporters. Yeah. So on the whole, 2/3 of exporters grew. Okay, great, fantastic. We asked them, were they affected by the US tariffs? Very little were.
That's good.
So that's positive. There was still potential for it to become so, but at that time, at the end of last year, there wasn't a lot of companies that highlighted that the tariffs were a major problem.
That actually surprises me, because I mean, the US I'm pegging is going to be one of our biggest export destinations for a lot of the businesses that you're talking to there. So, what had sheltered them from it? Are they just really good at managing paperwork in a way that doesn't get them caught, or?
Well, it's a question we didn't ask them specifically for those that did have issues with tariffs, but there was also a percentage of those that said they haven't seen the impact so much, but essentially they passed those prices on. Okay. So they weren't necessarily affected by it as much.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so there was certainly some positivity in those three areas. Yeah. But on the whole, we're going to say that 2025 was the hardest year we've seen in 9 years.
Wow. In the
9 years, yeah.
Geez, and we've had pandemics and recessions.
We have, we have.
Crikey.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. We said we'd park Australia, but I think it's worth looking across the Tasman and comparing ourselves to our bigger brother. It's very much a two-speed race, isn't it? I look at the report and I see a widening chasm between the trajectory, the velocity, and the outlook as well, between the two markets. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, sadly, I think it's true. They received much more growth than we did. So they had 61% of their companies grew, 66% of salespeople achieved their targets. So those are really positive things. But they also invested more as well. I mean, one of the interesting things for 2025, which is a continued surprise for me, was that in New Zealand we reduced our spending in developing salespeople.
It wasn't like a percentage points change either, right?
No.
It was like slashing.
It was a slash, yeah. So 50% reduction in for those that received development of some sort, 50% were cut. So for the year before, the average spend per salesperson was $3,000. Last year was $1,500.
And to set some context here, where does that sit compared to like a global average? I mean, I'm guessing that places like the US, where sales it's I suppose recognised more as a honed skill set than something you sort of blindly stumble into because you've got technical knowledge. If $3,000 per salesperson was where we were at, where did that sit on a scale?
Well, certainly against Australia, it was low. Yeah, it was low, and in fairness, Australia did have some cuts there too. So their spend in developing their team was by about 30%. And actually, when we looked at the year before for New Zealand, 3,000 was quite high. Okay. How it compares to the likes of UK and the US, I'm not sure. But what I do know is that if you're in Australia, you're much more likely to receive a higher form of development. And that's something that we have to think about. And we also saw marketing budgets cut. Which you'll love to hear, Dale, of course. So we saw marketing budgets cut, and we also saw technology investment slide.
Tech investment in New Zealand dropped as well.
Yeah, third year in a row, from a sales perspective.
Okay, so walk me through what that picture looks like, because if we look at the context of New Zealand, we've got pretty poor productivity rates, and that's probably putting it lightly. We're not investing in sales training, and we're not spending in tech. Where are we hoping to find an upside here?
True. I mean, I would love us as a country to become more aggressive. Yeah. And I think that is a major consideration between Australia and New Zealand. Mm-hmm. They show a lot bigger form of aggressiveness towards growth and driving change and so forth. And when we have a tough time, which in fairness it has been tough here, we go a little bit into our shells. Yeah. And I think we have a duty of care in this country. As all businesses, we need to continue investing. I get it; it's incredibly tough, and literally in some cases, the financial opportunity to invest in various things like technology wasn't there. But I also see a number of bigger companies that have good stability that potentially could invest more, and that's good for the whole economy. So yeah.
Do you get any view, in the conversations that you have through Syndicate and also through the research here that sort of talks to what's holding people back? Obviously, there's a financial implication, which is it's very present, it's very real, but is that money going somewhere else? Is it just not going anywhere? Or why isn't New Zealand? Why aren't New Zealand businesses investing in things like sales training and tech and being more aggressive on those fronts?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's been funneled into other areas. In some cases, it funneled, stayed within companies because they needed it to survive. But a lot of companies didn't, and I think a lot of it was really more of a conservative nature. So. It was definitely tough, and if you look at some industry like building products as an example, that was tough. Yeah. It was a really hard year, and is looking like it'll be another hard year.
What's made it hard for them? Where have those pressures come from in those industries? Is it volume? What's the competition?
The markets have declined.
Okay.
The size of the pie has declined. So their numbers of projects and investing in various things have reduced, and that has a big impact right across all sorts of organisations as well. So it has been absolutely a tougher year through no fault of their own, and I think one of the things that we saw too, Dale, was that for the first time ever, when we asked sales leaders what was the main reason why you didn't win deals in 2025, price was listed as the number one. And we've never had that before. And there is always arguments against price. Yeah. But we did see, because the buyer has the leverage, they used it.
That's so interesting.
And so driving down price was a strategy. Now, I would say too, is that the number one reason why companies listed that they won deals was through trust and brand.
Yeah, that much lit me up. I saw that and I was like, trust is the language that we speak, and I love that trust in brand and also the people who are representing those businesses is carrying sales forward. But when price is becoming more and more and more of a factor there, that's a real challenge. I mean, I look back to some of my time in the pure sales role, and I remember, I'll call him out here, my CEO, former CEO, John Stuckey, saying, Dale, price was never the reason you lost the deal. Don't you dare chalk it up to price, because there's always something else. But you've got years worth of data here which says if it's never been the top spot, the fact that it suddenly is tells you something, right?
Yeah. Your CEO is bang on usually.
Yeah.
And we would, as an organisation that develops sales teams and so forth, we would never highlight that price is usually the number one reason. And there's still absolutely many cases, and a number of cases where that is, price is simply not true, and it's used as a cop out both from the buyer and also the seller.
Yeah, true.
But we saw it for the first time this year. And so basically what that highlighted is that you wouldn't win deals on price, but you could certainly lose them.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're going to lose them, you do need to be there or thereabouts.
Yep.
And you can be high, and we've seen significant scenarios where companies, depending on what they're selling, could be dramatically higher in price. But, so in other words, you can't win on it, but you can lose on it if you're miles away.
Right, yeah, I can see it just playing out across so many different conversations in our world as well. The clients that we're working with, it's you have to be, like you said, you have to be within a hui of where it needs to be. Yeah. So one of the other things that stood out again in the report, and I think it's a conversation that we're hearing in a number of different swim lanes at the moment, but we have to talk about AI because it's 2026 and AI. But you saw a huge uptick in the number of salespeople using AI, but no real demonstrable lift in impact through it. Talk us through that.
Not yet. Not necessarily in productivity.
Yeah.
But in terms of, we asked the question, basically, did AI increase your sales? And you can look at that in a variety of different ways.
Yeah.
And we did. We saw 90% of salespeople using AI in some form. Most of it not mandated by the company, so a lot of it what they call shadow IT, or shadow AI, should I say. Yeah. but they were, and potentially it enabled them to be more more productive. It enabled them to improve what they were, delivering in an email or a proposal or in any form of writing or content, but not necessarily directly improving sales.
Which areas, I mean, you touched on some of them there, but where are sales teams actually putting AI to work? What is it doing and what is it enabling for them? I think it's a really interesting topic to explore practically.
Yeah. Well, I think the number one is productivity. So for those that are, as say, writing proposals, as an example, they're using it as a guide. For those that are writing content, they're using it as a guide. It's phenomenal for research. We know that much.
Yeah.
So I think that's supporting salespeople. It's certainly valuable from a reach out perspective. We're seeing more and more AI callers, and I'm not sure about you, but the number of spam emails I'm receiving that are AI generated is out of the box and out of control.
Isn't it amazing that we create this world-changing technology and we just use it to send more emails faster?
It's true.
And cold call
absolutely
more people.
True. And how many do you respond to?
Zip.
Exactly, because you know they are AI. So it's absolutely not there yet. But it does have the ability, if used well, to make salespeople better.
Yeah.
We have a particular piece of technology that we absolutely love, which is an AI role play tool. So it enables salespeople to practice their conversations, whether it's a discovery meeting or a negotiation or any part of particular area, with an AI avatar, and it gives you feedback on how well you did and how you can improve and so forth. So things like that are phenomenal.
Can we dig into that a little bit further?
Sure.
Is that something that you've developed yourselves, or is it off the shelf?
I would love to say we've developed it, Dale, but no, we've got it from a US-based organisation, and it is absolutely a game changer. Yeah. So if you think of, for instance, one of the challenges of training and development is that you typically rely on managers to embed the learning and keep it live and keep it going. But this particular type of tool helps embed it, and you're able to get consistent feedback right across the team. There's also an element for those that want it or their culture fits with it that's competitive, which salespeople love. No surprise there.
Yeah.
And so things like this will enable salespeople to be better. Will it take away from, will we have thousands of salespeople lose their jobs? I think that's yet to be found out, anyone's guess. But if you look at what companies value, back to that trust, back to that brand, everything that can lead into improving those areas. In some cases, AI will support that. In some cases, it won't.
It sounds fascinating. I remember the last time we sat here, you talked about crystal nose. And I remember a bunch of people who listened to the podcast came to me afterwards and said, "Oh, we went and looked at it. What a cool tool." Are you allowed to mention what this name of this?
Yeah, sure.
And ask for royalties from the guys in the US.
Sure. Well, I mean, we have the ownership of it in Australasia, so very happy to mention it. It's a tool called Second Nature.
Okay.
And it's entirely designed to do that, to make having great sales conversations and interactions second nature. And so it's a bit of a game changer.
So when you say that it's a conversational tool with an avatar, does it actually stand up a person on screen that you can talk to? So we could have that on the podcast?
Wow. Might take a bit of work, but yes, absolutely. So essentially for instance, your business, we would set up a scenario that's customized to your business and the type of people that you have a conversation with. And you can set them up as being a pleasant person or a difficult person, and you can create a whole different scenario that would put the salesperson into that exactly like a case that you would do yourself.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how lifelike it is, and how you do get a little bit of apprehension when you're starting this tool, because you recognise there is an element that you're seeing how well you perform, and you get a score towards best practice. But then most importantly, you get delivered this set of feedback or analysis that comes back to say you spoke too quickly, which is an issue for New Zealanders. I know it's an issue for me. I get that a lot. You said too many ums and ahs. You didn't dig in and ask this question. You didn't build great rapport, but you did this very, very well, and those are the things that you can expand on.
I don't think there's a single person who's going to listen to this who's not going to be curious to have a go at that. As we're talking about it, I'm interested. That's actually a great use case, though, right? I mean, and when you talk about the reduction in training spend in New Zealand, something like that one scenario, the ability to go in and stress test your own delivery, your own performance, in a way that actually is impartial, isn't reliant on the person who was in the call with you saying, "Hey, Mike, you said a bit too many times," being able to do that and have some fit. That's an awesome use case.
Yeah.
Way
Absolutely.
better than sending a shitload of cold emails.
Completely. I mean, the game should be we need to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to be better. We need to constantly be getting better. We also need to be better than our competitors. And anything that will enable us to provide better value to our customers has got to be a great thing.
This wasn't really the purpose of the conversation, but I'm so curious. Do you see a difference in sales style and performance within that between New Zealand sales teams and Australian sales teams?
Well, we know one of the things with New Zealand sales teams is that there was a piece of research, which unfortunately wasn't ours, done a number of years ago, which highlighted that the vast majority of people in New Zealand sales were not necessarily proud of being in sales.
Yep.
So there is that element, and we do know that we are, as we spoke about, more conservative, and but we also know from a buyer behaviour, which is really frustrating for salespeople. We love yeses, of course. Yes, let's work together. We love. Well, I wouldn't say we love, but we don't mind no's.
Because you can do something with a no.
You can do something with a no, but we don't like the maybes.
Yeah.
And in Australia, by all accounts, you're going to get the yeses or the nos. In New Zealand, you'll often we'll come back to it in 2 months, or et cetera, et cetera. So there is that nature, and they are definitely more aggressive.
Yep.
Definitely more aggressive. Yeah.
But I suppose that would go hand in hand with that piece that you talked about earlier on, with sales cycles getting longer. Procrastination, kicking the can down the road. Oh, this is great. Let's socialize it, and we'll come back to you in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Have Kiwis just gotten more polite?
Maybe a little bit of risk averse.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of risk averse for and that's understandable because times have been tough.
Yeah.
And absolutely, you want to encourage buyers to be really careful what they're buying.
Yeah.
But we are probably a little bit more risk averse than I'd like us to see us be. But that will get better when conditions get better.
Yeah.
When we aren't so concerned about paying salaries in next month, or making sure our business is sustainable.
Are there other factors in there that you see? You talk about those barriers to taking risks. Are there other things that you see within the pool of people that you survey, where the people who have done really well have looked at risk and have framed it differently, or have navigated around it in a way that others haven't?
I remember being in a board meeting with a different company years ago, and there was an old wise guy in there, and he said, look, the reality is if you're not prepared to take risk, you shouldn't be in business. And I think that's 100% true. I mean, calculated risk, but if you look at the most successful businesses or the most successful entrepreneurs, they've all taken a risk in some way or form, and not normally one risk. They've taken a bunch of risks, and in some cases it won't have worked as an example, but the reality, if you want to build a successful business, you're going to be taking some at various points, whether it's borrowing money, whether it's buying the business, whether it's starting the business, whether it's employing this person, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And in sales, as we know, the biggest issue or the biggest competitor usually is the non-decision. Yep. And for a great salesperson, the great salesperson has value. They'll understand the client's predicament or situation, that they can truly add something to their business, and it's communicating that well, and it's being 100% sure that you can have an impact on the business, and that removes risk. So the best salespeople will 100% be getting that across, that this is an investment that is worthwhile for the company to embark on, or tell the company it's not the right fit for you and move on. Yeah. That's so interesting.
A wonderful person from within our network, and a customer of ours as well, been in the role of CEO at a fascinating business here in Auckland, in the industrial automation space. And he'd been given a mandate over a period of the last sort of 5-6 years to get the business to a point of revenue, margin, everything else like that. And he's just stepped back from that role, having achieved it. And he put up a great phrase on LinkedIn the other day, which was that a ship is safest when it's in its harbour, but it's not what a ship was designed to go and do. And that was his rationale for having gone and done this thing and not been comfortable there's risk in taking and doing the next big thing, and I think it's very brave, and it's an honourable thing that you can see people lean into that in a way which is, considered. It's smart. Now, one of the things that stood out in the report for me was sales and marketing alignment. So you guys talk to marketing managers more this time around than you have done in the past. Talk to me about the state of sales and marketing as a team.
As a relationship between sales and marketing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's improving.
That's awesome.
It's improving. Depending on what the marketing team is there to do.
Yeah.
One of the things we spoke about already was that trust and brand are what people buy on. And if we're seeing marketing budgets reduce, then that's a worry for salespeople. It is a lot easier to sell when you have a great brand, not just a personal brand behind you, but a great business brand behind you. Sales leaders feel that they have a seat at the table with marketing. They feel that they are adding value or have a voice in that space. They do feel that, which we don't know if this will ever change. It may be just a constant forever, but they do feel 2/3 of sales leaders feel that marketing does not deliver the leads that they should be.
We were talking about this before, and I kind of get the sense that to an extent this is like a teenage boy's hunger. Like, you'll never fill up a 13-year-old boy playing sports. They'll always want more. But it's an interesting piece, because one of the things I see as a sort of a challenge in this whole arena is that the lead gen piece is arguably the most measurable. The trust and the brand building piece is the least tangible, but has the biggest impact on sales. But then when it comes to budgeting time within marketing, it's the brand and trust piece that gets axed first in favor of the more measurable bottom of funnel piece. But it sort of feels a little bit that you're hearing from the sales team here that actually the thing that's greasing the wheels most for them here is that high level brand and trust piece. Yeah,
it's a dichotomy, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, if you look at the biggest frustration from a sales leader about their sales team, it's business development.
Okay.
Always. Every year, as long as we've been researching sales leaders, the biggest frustration with sales leaders is there's not enough business development going on.
And how does that show up? Is that just get out of the office more? I don't want to see you. Why are you behind your desk? Is that the sort of sentiment there?
Completely.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than going into a quiet sales room, and there's nothing worse than going into a sales room when you expect your salespeople to be out on the road and visiting customers, and they're all sitting there tapping on their computers. But that is always the biggest frustration. So it's around new logos, as they say, bringing those out there hunting. Yeah. When a lot of sales roles are typically dedicated 80% account management, 20% prospecting or bring on new business. The 20% prospecting is always the part that they feel is not done.
Yeah, okay.
And so they're also saying, that's not been done, but also marketing's not delivering us the leads.
I was going to say, it's the whole shit flows downhill scenario.
Completely. Will they ever be happy? Well, I mean, actually, I should say that sales leaders are incredibly optimistic. They're the most optimistic bunch, but you always have pressures. And particularly last couple of years, there is pressures. There is a bit of a widening gap, I think, between sales leaders and salespeople, more so than marketing and sales leaders. They seem to be coming closer together. Sales leaders and salespeople seem to be moving further apart based on a number of different reasons. Yeah.
Okay, so sort of fractures within that sales camp. So the wedge between sales leaders and the sales team is getting bigger. Is that what you're saying there?
Yeah, and I would put that entirely down to the economic situation. Yeah. So companies typically wanting to pay salespeople more commission. Salespeople, they want more security.
They want a bigger base.
Yeah. And if I throw in some research from the Mood, last year 93% of salespeople either received no salary increase or less than 5%.
Okay.
So a very, very small margin were more than 5% in terms of their salary increase. The year before that, it was about 70%. Okay. So for the last 2 years, there hasn't been a lot of increase in remuneration, and particularly incentives haven't been easily flowing as well. Yeah. So there is this frustration from salespeople, and you can see it in why they leave roles. They've been leaving roles, going to other ones for more money. That's been happening. I mean, that's been happening for a while, but but they want more money and they want it as a base, not commission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the same also for business development managers. Typically, it's always a fascinating conversation around what drives salespeople, and usually money is lower. You want to be paid what you're worth, of course, and don't get me wrong, we like incentives and we do like getting paid more money, but it's not our number one driver. And so salespeople want more money, they want better leadership.
Yeah,
it's definitely a disconnect around the leadership, and they want more opportunities to advance. They want development, and they want a career path, a clear career path.
When you say better leadership, what are the gaps there? Is that empathy? Is that training? Is that latitude to go and do what you need to? Accountability? What does better leadership look like there?
It's all of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's they want to look up to a leader that they feel has their back. I think that's the first and most important thing. But they also want guidance, and they want development. They want to learn off a leader.
Yeah.
The problem that we've had, because a leader is under increasing stress because the numbers aren't quite where they are, is that they perhaps haven't been quite as connected as they usually are. And the empathy piece is it's a really critical part for a salesperson. You know, as they say, you go for a brand and you stay for a manager. And we do have an issue with quality of sales leadership in this country. Most of us, as we were, growing through our careers, we didn't necessarily have great sales leadership development. Some may have had leadership development, but it is an area that's not developed nearly enough. You don't learn this at university. And, quite often a sales leader will give up their development budget and give it to the salesperson. Lift the quality of the sales leader, you lift the quality of the whole team.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a disconnect going on there, and 50% of salespeople were approached about a new role last year. I think, which is common, and I think they're your best salespeople, your competitors' best prospects, and I don't think people realise how often their best salespeople have been approached about roles, and that's only going to increase when the economy, fingers crossed, this year will grow.
Let's just quickly dig into that sales leadership piece here, because I think when we talk about empathy in the context of leadership, let's just look at a quick scenario here. So let's say you're sales leader, you've got a team of, I don't know, let's say somewhere between 2 and 5 salespeople, BDMs, account managers, whatever, and those people aren't hitting their numbers. What does the good sales leadership response look like to that? Because sell more is not gonna bail out a leaking boat, is it?
Sure. Yeah, 100%. It's going to be different for every salesperson. I think that if you've got a team of 2 to 5, right, there's not a massive team there. One of the most important things that a sales leader can do for a salesperson is to truly try and understand them as best as possible. We were talking about money before as a motivator. Most salespeople, it's not their number one. But what drives them? Yeah. And in fact, what we have from our research is that most people are passionate about their roles due to having that leader that they truly love, to having great respect in their company, being part of a really strong sales culture. But they also really love their clients. They really love dealing with their right clients. So the first thing a sales leader can do is understand, okay, what is the main issue? And you should be able to pull apart an element of, are they spending the time with the wrong customers? So is their focus incorrect? Is their ideal customer not focused enough? Are they having from a quantity perspective? And I always say quantity, quality, and process. So quantity, are they having the numbers of calls or meetings or opportunities in their pipeline? And then really importantly, what's the quality like? So how well are they engaging in different parts of the sales process? And we typically say that there is this balance between mindset and skill set, and most of the time mindset is the most important area to focus with salespeople, and the mindset piece is their drive to want to be successful, their ability to try and improve what they do to enable them to get better. They really look at things, opportunity or difficult situations, as an opportunity to learn and advance, rather than that, fixed mindset. So it's the growth versus the fixed. And that's a really critical element to drive. And to drive that mindset piece, you've really got to know your person.
Yep.
What do they want? Are they trying to sell for? Are they trying to buy a house, or are they most passionate about this part of the business? Do they want to be the best in the company? Do they what is it? What is it? Usually it's not money. Usually it's something else.
That's such a refreshing thing to hear. So just for context here, so we were yesterday here at the B2B marketing conference put on by the Marketing Association. And I think one of the things that fascinates me so much in the last 10 minutes of this conversation is that yesterday we were in a room where full of marketers, and there's still very much the sense from the marketing camp that the relationship's not that solid. One of the things that I pick up from that sort of marketing tranche, and I sit a little bit differently in that because I've been in sales, I've run territory management, even now I blur the lines between sales and marketing. But I think that it's interesting to hear that sales feel that the relationship is strengthening, that sales and marketing alignment piece is strengthening. But I think the thing that's missing on the marketing side of the equation is actually an appreciation of what life as a salesperson looks like. Because to hear you say that money is not the biggest driver, it goes straight against the grain of all of the assumptions that people would normally make about a salesperson, right? You think you're in sales, you must love sales. You must love money, you must love commission, all those kind of things. But if you look at it objectively, and I look within, again, my own network here, the people who are really good at sales are the people for whom the sale is the natural byproduct of just doing the right thing in the first place. Looking after the client, finding a problem, caring about them deeply, and making sure that the people who are delivering haul ass to make sure that they keep their promises. So I find it interesting to see, again, like I said, that the sense from the sales team is that the sales and marketing alignment is strong there, because coming up with some of these conversations, it doesn't feel like that's echoed on the marketing side of the equation. But one thing that I did notice, and it made me smile actually, was in the Australian report this year, was that sales and marketing alignment was rated really, really, really strongly. And then the next thing that came after it was, and also sales feel like we have a lot of influence within the marketing team. And is that sales calling the shots, or is that actually being listened to? What does that look like? Is that getting the proposal and the PowerPoint presentation at standard when we want it, or is it actually that there's more there?
Yeah, well, and I don't know how to actually answer that one, Dale. I think one of the biggest things that was highlighted is what is the best way to enhance that relationship.
Yep.
And maybe there's a mutual respect point of view, which is to understand what others do. I mean, they're different personalities, yes, I think, in many ways. I mean, I'm not saying it entirely, but as an example, I was called today for, as quite often happens with me, as someone rang me and said, I'm looking for a GM of sales and marketing. And my first thought is, well, which is your bent? Is it marketing or is it sales?
Yep.
Because you're never going to be 50-50. I'm yet to see that. There may be someone out there. But I think there's a realisation of the last few years just how critical both sides are.
Yeah.
And they sit right on top of each other. And there is no doubt it's getting, more and more closer.
Yep.
It doesn't mean there's always going to be a little bit of an element of oil and water.
Yeah.
I think
great analogy. That's
a
really good analogy.
always going to be there.
Yeah.
And as we alluded before, that sales leaders are always frustrated that that there isn't enough leads, but maybe that's not a true understanding of what both sides do. But that relationship or that rapport is critical, and we are seeing more roles that do have that overall management of sales and marketing, which is sorry about that.
Little microphone dip there in case there's a huge great big spike
which is important, but it's just spending more and more time together, both from a content perspective, learnings from the field that go back into the marketing space.
Yeah.
So is there always going to be a little bit of element of tension? Yes, I think. Is there joint respect? I think on the whole, but there's probably always joint frustrations about what each side needs from each side. And one thing I should go back to where you started being there. Don't get me wrong, salespeople love money. We're not saying we don't love them. We don't love. It's not saying that, but it is a massive mistake for any person to jump for a role, particularly for money.
That's such an interesting conversation, because I was talking to a good buddy of mine this morning about exactly that piece. There's a pathway in front of this guy where it's like, okay, well, I could go back into the corporate world. I could make really good money, but it's going to destroy my soul. It's not going to fill my cup. Or I could go into more sort of startup, early tech, that kind of space, which is going to delight me. I'm going to be working with good people, and it's going to tick all of those other boxes that, don't make the commission check, but that pay another bill.
Well, and I think that depends on your stage of life too, right?
Yeah.
But we typically do see that, and we saw that a lot during, 2022, when there was such a shortage of people, that people jumped for more money. In some cases, really significant amounts of money. But when the economy turned after that, who was the first to go? Those people that had the massive remuneration that perhaps weren't delivering as much as they would, and there's always a level of frustration, but I do as a whole generally think that, and I think this concept of back to that, salespeople entirely driven by money. If I'm in a situation and you're a buyer and I'm a seller, my whole thought process going into that conversation is for me to make more money, incentive breath, we call it. You're very easily going to see that, see through that, and you're never going to buy from me again.
Yeah, and that comes straight back to that trust piece, right?
Completely.
Yeah.
You may be able to get away with that in other markets, but bigger markets in this country, in this country, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, you're going to get tired with a brush pretty quickly, I think.
Completely. But if you think of the most successful salespeople that you've ever come across, they don't have that. They don't have that element to them. They are there to help the customer, and that salesperson will be the one that receives the referrals. Yeah. And that salesperson will hopefully be the one that's still desired when AI takes over the whole world. Yeah. So
that's a good segue, because we're 40 minutes in. At this stage of 2026, it's anyone's guess what's going to happen on the global stage. The guy in the blonde toupee is throwing curveballs left, right, and centre. But let's look forward to Mood of the Sales Leader 2027. You and I are sitting on a yacht somewhere out in the Hauraki Gulf recording the 10-year anniversary podcast. What are you pegging is going to change? What do you think that the outlook is going to look like over the rest of the year ahead, and what can we do to take control of some of those things?
Okay, well, I'll do that in two parts. Yeah. One is I'll tell you what the research told us, and what sales leaders told us at the end of last year and salespeople, and two is I'll tell you what I think.
Okay, cool, and I'm interested in both.
Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately for the year ahead, what we saw is that fortunately, the level of pessimism is the lowest we've seen, joint lowest we've seen for a number of years. Only 1% of sales leaders were pessimistic. On the other side, we also saw the level of optimism, so those companies that were really bullish about this year, also at the lowest. So really what they're saying to us is we see it a little bit better, but we don't necessarily see it hitting out of the park.
Yeah.
And when we ask them, when are we coming out of this recession? Yeah. Which we asked them last year. Earliest is midway through the year.
Yep.
A chunk were into next year as well.
Yep.
We all want to go into this year being confident, and we're still holding on to that. We had an event for the Mood of the Sales Leader in January this year, and I asked to the crowd that was there, what's the one word that's going to describe this year?
Okay.
And this one individual shouted out uncertainty.
Okay.
And he was almost lynched because everyone wanted this massive confidence element, and they were disappointed by that. But in reality, he's probably true.
Yeah.
He's probably true. And so there is certain... Yeah, so essentially what they're saying to us is, it's a bit... It's not necessarily exciting, but we're holding on.
Yeah.
But we're going to be better than last year, and we're certainly seeing that. Doesn't help with the election.
Yeah, it's always a holding pattern kind of mindset, isn't it?
Always a holding pattern, particularly if it's close.
Yeah.
That doesn't help, and then straight after that we're into December, January, doom time. So
the 2 months of the year that don't really ever happen.
Yeah, exactly. that exactly. So that's what they're telling us. What I'm saying is pretty similar. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to mention the blonde toupee because I still might want to go to the US and I want to be let in maybe, but you know. But I think it's going to be better. Maybe not massively better. Mm-hmm. But I did share that expression for it's going to be heaven in 27. Let's hold on to that.
Yeah.
Let's hold on to that. But the big thing we don't know is what's going to happen internationally, and the increase in fuel prices and the likes is a real concern for so many, and in fact the whole economy.
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to get better. I think the confidence and momentum is going to build slowly throughout the year. I think that hopefully companies will invest more this year and take a more aggressive approach. And it will get better at some stage. It's just about how long. I'm probably a little bit in the 27 camp. That's going to be a really good year as opposed to the second half of this year.
Yeah. That's fair enough, and I think that's objective, right? But what I like about that is that you're sort of saying, yes, there is a pathway to positivity, but we just have to keep putting those pegs in the board, keep building towards it, and heaven in 27, hey?
Yeah, so they say. But, you know, we can all make our own excuses, right? And there is still opportunity out there if you want it, and that's what we're hearing a lot of at the moment. There is opportunity there, you just got to work harder for it.
I don't think I can end the podcast better than on those words. Mike, that's been such an enjoyable conversation. 45 minutes has absolutely flown past. Thank you so much again for coming in and sharing your perspectives, the research, the outlook here. I can't wait to sit back here in 2027, and I'm hoping that we can make this an annual thing, but in 2027 and seeing where we land and seeing what the runway looks like in a year's time.
Excellent. Thanks, Dale.